Big. Well, man, it's great to meet you. I dig what you're doing. And um, before we get into your work, I want to know first and foremost, how did you survive the pandemic? 4 years ago, we were trying to find our way out of this. We didn't know what it was going to ultimately play out to be. How did you get through it? And how did it affect the way that you do your work now?
Well, I've had a long journey in business, and at that particular time, I was vice president of a real estate company that was franchising. So I was, in charge of doing franchise development for them. And back then, business was done very differently than it is today because, nobody was buying a franchise that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars unless you fly to where they are, you take them out for cocktails, dinner, all of that stuff, the whole relationship building thing that had to be done in person. And, what COVID did was first of all, it put me on a travel stop, no more going anywhere, right? And so then everybody just kind of migrated right over to Zoom, and it was pretty seamless the way that that happened. It was just like, hey, I'd like to come see you, but now because of this pandemic, we have to do business over Zoom. And to my surprise, people were still buying businesses without even ever seeing us. And so for that company, that it was great for them because we were spending a ton of money on travel budgets and dinners and hotels and all that. So actually it made us much more profitable. And at the same time, there was a little lull there for a couple of months because nobody knew if we were going to live or die, you know. But once that kind of settled in and we just realized that that was the new normal, then business became better than it had ever been and has been going strong ever since then. And now in my business, it gives me the chance to be able to cover a lot of ground where I can have more meaningful conversations with people, be more effective with my day than trying to get up and get to an airport at 4 a.m. to catch a flight to be in business in a market and in business by 9 a.m. Say
Yeah.
so. I mean, it was if there was one good thing that came out of the pandemic for me, it was the way it changed business. Because in my experience, it changed it for the better,
Yeah.
and I couldn't go back to doing it the old way again. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
It's just a lot better way to do it now.
Yeah.
So
So let's get into the business that you do here in 2024. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day. One of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What's your answer?
uh, I help people become uh, entrepreneurs through franchising. Basically, what I do is help people achieve the American dream. I've always been fascinated with business, and I was fortunate enough to figure out pretty early on that I wasn't really cut out for corporate America, and so it started me on an entrepreneurial journey very early on, and it really changed my life in the most amazing ways. And so I've always been grateful that I've had that experience, and I love sharing that experience with others. And that's what got me basically to where I am today, helping people buy businesses. In fact, actually, this is not my normal office. Where this is a franchise that I own, sitting in my office here, but so I take my own advice and buy businesses as well. But the reason why I focus on franchising is because you can be in business for yourself but not by yourself. A lot of people I think want to be business owners, but like, where do you start? If you've never owned a business before, what do you do? How do you do it? And franchises provide that framework to be able to make it much more like your chances of being successful are exponentially higher than what they would ever be trying to start a business on your own by yourself. And what it basically boils down to is if I can help people find the right business for them, then it's as predictable as the sun coming up each morning. Like, not only do I know that you can be successful, but I know pretty much what you're going to make, what you're going to net, what kind of hours you're going to be working in the business. Like, that's one of the great things about franchising is it's like a window into the future of what it's going to be like to be an entrepreneur. And what it basically boils down to at that point is you have to show up and implement the process. And if you can do that, you'll be fine. So, then that starts people on an entrepreneurial journey, which changes their life just like it changed mine. Where now every time you are out, you see a business and you're like, that looks like a great business. That business looks like hell. I wouldn't want to run that business. But you just start thinking about things differently, and it opens up doors that could have never been opened before without having franchising as that conduit to get you, out of corporate America into a business that you own where you're understanding how businesses work. And from there, the sky's the limit. But the key is the first business has to work. And that's where I come in, is because I help make for sure that I find that perfect business for my clients so that they're set up with the best opportunity for success right out of the gate.
So what did you want to be in the 3rd grade? What was your dream?
I want to be a fighter jet pilot.
Okay. Did you
Probably like a lot of other boys my age,
Yeah.
at the time. But I was not too long after Top Gun came
Yep.
out, and you're seeing them do all that stuff on TV, and you're like, man, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
So that was always kind of like my plan. But had a pretty bad motorcycle accident right after I got out of high school when I was 18. Actually, I was still 17, and that kind of derailed that vision that I had. And so I got into sales and then got into business ownership, and the rest was history, as they say.
So how were those seeds planted in you earlier on? How did you get that business acumen? How did that kind of grow into this passion and success that you have today?
A lot of it was really tough and very expensive lessons that I had to learn the hard way. I tend to be a little stubborn sometimes, and when you're stubborn in business, sometimes it just comes back and slaps you around a little bit. And so that was kind of what my journey was, especially early on, was okay, like how do I hire someone? How do I manage someone effectively? How do I handle my taxes and payroll and all of these different kinds of things, right? And you know, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I'm the first person in my family to really like go out and take a swing, at the plate for a grand slam. So I didn't really have anybody that I could lean on. And that's what I love about franchises now is like you have not only the support of the franchisor who's been there and done that, no matter what you're going through, they've already experienced it. So oftentimes just a phone call gives you the answer that you need. But then you also have the network of other franchisees as well. And they say if you're the most successful person in the room, you're hanging out with the wrong people, basically, or however they say that. And that's really kind of what this is the rising tide floats all boats, and you're going to have franchisees who are killing it in any franchise system that are going to say, oh, you're having a problem with XYZ. I had a problem with XYZ when I first started my franchise, and here's what I did this and I did that, and now it's no longer a problem. And just like that, you're over that hump. And so it knocks down those barriers that you would normally run up against. But it was just a lot of trial and error, made and lost fortunes. And my career, especially early on, was like kind of like this,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the life of an entrepreneur too. But at the end of the day, I've got friends of mine who went to college and got degrees and did all that stuff, and they're at a comfortable place. But I would say I'm further ahead than a lot of those people, just because through my experiences, eventually things start to get exponentially easier and you can grow much faster, and that's where you can make up a lot of ground. So although it was a struggle in the beginning because I was all by myself, it really paid off in the long run, because now I feel like I'm at a better place than I could have ever been if I would have just taken the corporate America route.
So who's been a hero for you, an inspiration for you in your life?
My dad, he growing up, my dad was the hardest working person. Still to this day was always the hardest working person I ever met. He would put in about 70 hours a week every single week from when I was born until I was long after I was even out of the house. And I think that's where I got my work ethic from. And, people who are successful in business, they're willing to work. You know what I mean? And that's something that I've always appreciated. And as I get older and now I have a son of my own, I really appreciate that so much more, that he sacrificed so much for us to be able to have a good Christmas, to have, eh, I just, I'll always be so thankful that I was fortunate enough to grow up in such a great household environment. Even though we didn't have a ton of money, there was so much love in that house, and I credit my dad for that, because of just how much he cared for us and how hard he worked for us to be able to have the things that we wanted.
So in the realm of business, if you could meet anybody out there that's doing it the right way, someone that you admire, who would you love to meet and pick their brain for a little bit?
That's a great question. There are so many just incredibly influential leaders, but I would say the ones that probably are at the top of mind for a lot of people, people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, those kind of guys who built something great, you know, in a very short amount of time. Amazon, for example, is more successful than a lot of companies that have been around for over 100 years, and they did it like in a blink of an eye. Like that would be somebody that I would love to just be a sponge and absorb that knowledge and that experience.
Yeah.
But also in my career, I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of very successful people. I'm pretty well connected now, and that's been a huge thing that's changed for me recently. Is not just what you know, but who you know, and always, like I said earlier, being in the right room. And so, like, I do have some people like that that I feel like are very influential, who have been an inspiration for me as well, that I talk to regularly about all kinds of things in business.
So what is the motivation for you specifically for the work that you're doing and the success that you've had? What gets you up every day? What motivates you to evolve as not only a business person, but as a human being? What is that collective gumption every day?
Do good for others while making a decent living myself. Like you're doing the entrepreneurial thing. Like you know what that's like. It's not easy running a podcast. It's not easy doing all the things that we do. These are hard things, and that's what makes them so worth it and worthwhile in the long term, especially. How many podcasts get started and then they just evaporate and turn into nothing? It's like 9 out of 10 or something like that. It's an incredibly high number, right?
Yeah.
And for me, and you can relate as an entrepreneur yourself as well, but you go through life, and no matter what, we all have an expiration date, right? And for me, like, I just can't imagine going through my life and getting all the way to the end of the road and wondering what would have happened if I would have just tried, to do something on my own. And I'm so thankful that I did try that, and I felt like I tried it when I was young and I had basically nothing to lose. I was fearless, at that point in my life. But no matter where people are in their lives, if you believe in yourself, you have to try. You have to try, because what you do for work is important, because you trade a day of your life for it. So if you don't love it, then you're essentially just throwing your life away. That's kind of how I see it. And so for people who are in those jobs, and I meet these people every single day, they're making really good money. They live a comfortable life, but every day they go to work, it sucks and they're miserable. And the stress, gives people heart attacks and strokes and all these things. And so I want people to be able to have a pathway to be able to create their own dreams. And it's something that I take extremely personal. And because I'm so passionate about the way I want to do this, it's everything that I do is really, I guess you would say, like, performance based. So, like, if somebody wants to explore franchising, it doesn't cost them anything to have a conversation or even to look at businesses and understand what they can do, you know. But if I find the perfect business for them and we set them up to be successful, that is whenever I get paid, and that's how I support my family. But really, I tell people this is a labor of love. I mean, like you can see here, I'm in a franchise of my own. Like I do take my own advice from time to time. It's not like I'm trying to tell somebody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. Like I walk that walk too. And so I know, and sometimes I tell people don't do this. It's going to be that you're not a fit for this, or it's not the right time or whatever. But for those people who really want to do something bold and really want to do great, that's what I'm here for. I want to be able to help people do that. And small business runs America. Even just in franchising, that's 3% of our entire GDP, employs over 9 million workers in the United States. Without franchising, our economy would be toast.
Yeah.
So like this is something that does good for people who want to be entrepreneurs, but it does good for creating jobs. It does good for supporting the economy of the greatest country in the world. It does so many things. And even though I'm a very, very small cog in that wheel, I'm going to do my part to help.
So so of everything that you've done in your career up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
What I'm the most proud of has nothing to do with my business career. It's my family. That is absolutely the thing that I'm the most proud of. I've I've got a great wife of 9 years. I got a 3-year-old son. There is nothing that I take more pride in than that. Um, so most people, I think, as far as business goes, um, if you were to ask me, I guess that maybe that might have been your question. But in business, what am I the most proud of? Just initially ripping that band-aid off
Yeah.
and going for it, believing in myself to try. I would say that's the thing that I'm most proud of because without that, nothing else would have ever happened.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm a giver. I'm a giver. Um, I I want people to be as good as they can be. At the same time, I don't want somebody to be successful more than they want to be successful for themselves. So I do have a limit in that respect. Um, but I just want to help people get to where they want to be, do good for the community. Someday, whenever I'm gone, I want people to say, you know what, like he was a good man. He did things honestly, ethically. He never screwed anybody over. He never took advantage of anybody. He, was positive. He like these are the things that I want people to think about me because, I want my son to grow up that way.
Yeah.
I don't want him to grow up in business and be successful because he took advantage of other people. I want him to be successful because he did the right thing. And I still believe that good things happen to people who do good in their life. So that's my credo, I guess,
Yeah.
to just always do what's right,
So if
even
anyone
if
out there,
it's
what's
even
that?
if it's more expensive
Yeah,
to
I
do
get it. Totally do.
it.
So if anyone out there wants to reach out, hire you, learn more about you, any of the good business, where do they go?
You can find me on LinkedIn under my profile, Dustin Helms, or you can find me on my website, helmsgroupfranchising.com, or also on YouTube.
Okay. Dustin, this has been great, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. What a great interview. I appreciate your time today.
Great to meet you, Joe. Thanks
Take
for
care.
having me on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you.